So at least the fact that all these monies are found in the custody of one person, whether at home or at the bank, is so scary. Because this is just one minister in the Nana Akufo-led.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Ghana here on Studio 2 Television. This is the show where we put Ghana first in all of our conversations. Coming up on today's show, the special prosecutor confirms monies retrieved from the home of Cecilia Dapaah, 590,000 US dollars and up to 27 million cedis in hard cash. On today's edition of the show, we tell you what more we know in the court document, which amongst many things directs the freezing of the assets of Cecilia Dapaah. And much later, ECOWAS still considering military action as it directs ECOMOG to begin mobilizing towards a march headed for Niger. We get details if you stay with us. This is Let's Talk Ghana. You're welcome back. This is Let's Talk Ghana. I am Eric Mawena Egbeta, and we're going straight into the conversations today because they are quite worrying. The Office of the Special Prosecutor, if you recall, we brought you details where we said after searches in our home in the end part of July, money was found. That was hugely contested. Individuals, Paul Adomotri and the likes, challenged those assertions. Well, it appears that all of that now has been confirmed by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, where $590,000 at the Abelemkpe residence of Cecilia Dapaah has been retrieved, hard cash, not paper bank account, hard cash, 590,000 US dollars. And then 27 million cedis in hard cash as well, found in the home of Cecilia Dapaah. All of this was captured in documents from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, where he is seeking to pray the court to allow him continue to freeze or hold on to or seize these amounts of money, including others in her bank account. That's where the investigations has reached. There's money and we are freezing more in her bank account. Here's the details which is coming up on your screens now. And so 7 bank accounts in totality from 2 banks. And then, let's break it down. Prudential Bank, where there are 4 separate accounts in her name, Cecilia Dapaah, with different sums of money, cedis and then dollars. And then there are 3 bank accounts at Societe Generale with cedis in investment and then cedis sitting comfortably as well. Vitus Azim is an anti-graft campaigner. Let's pick his thoughts as to the latest that we found. Ms. Azim, many thanks for speaking to us this morning here on Let's Talk Ghana. Your general impression of the investigations by the OSP so far?
I'm expecting him to come out with some of these details.
Right.
So what is coming up, at least it will scare other people from getting involved in some of these things. So I think it's commendable.
In terms of expectations, would you say he has met those expectations? Because I recall we engaged you where you, amongst many other things, expressed some skepticism about the speed with which he could have gone about investigations and whether or not something will come out of it.
Yes. So with regards to this particular case, I think that it has met my expectations, and I think if it goes like that with other cases involving especially politically exposed persons, there will be the way is looking very bright.
It's looking bright, but I mean, what is your general thoughts on the findings? Now we can speak authoritatively to amounts that were found. Even after they reported 1 million US dollars, as much as 590,000 US dollars was found again in their home, and up to 27 million cedis.
And even more allegedly in the bank, even though the Office of Special Prosecutor has issued a circular denying that they haven't given that information out. But the fact that the information has come out is an indication that they actually found that information. Maybe they don't want to make it public.
Right.
So at least the fact that all these monies are found in the custody of one person, whether at home or at the bank, is so scary. Because this is just one minister in the Nana Akufo-led administration. We don't know what other ministers have in their houses and in their bank accounts. And so when we are talking about economic crisis, the temptation is to say that it is deliberately created and that this country is in serious problem with such people managing the affairs of the country.
I know in the past we've made comments suggesting that perhaps we should begin to look into the homes of other ministers, other government appointees. But in the light of this latest detail, how pressing should that request or that demand be, and possibly who should be taking the lead? Because it does appear the details are quite worrying.
If it was a president that was seriously committed to the fight against corruption, he could have instructed his institutions to do that. But unfortunately, this president is not interested in fighting corruption. But he's always the first to come out and defend his appointees. And because of the democracy, I don't think that the office of president prosecutor can just handpick some people and go into their houses to search. They will say there's a tampering on their human rights and all that.
Right.
So unless people go to competition, people who have suspicions allege that there's something happening, it will be difficult for the special prosecutors to go beyond that.
But I'm sure it will be important if it is the case that we can get something like that done in respect to other existing ministers.
Oh, it will be very important for that because the Office of Special Prosecutor himself has said that he talked about lifestyle audit.
Right. But
he will need a basis to pick on who should face the first lifestyle audit, and that's my problem.
Ms. Azim, many thanks for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
That's Vitus Azim. He's an anti-graft campaigner. We're going on a break, and when we return, we'll talk to you about ECOWAS and the latest decisions from the West African Community States, where they say all options continue to remain open, including military intervention. We'll get into that shortly. Stay with us. This is Let's Talk Ghana. You're welcome back to Let's Talk Ghana here on Studios 2 Television. This is the show where we put Ghana first in all of our conversations, and we're headed towards a conversation of ECOWAS because, as you know it, the situation in Niger has been dire over the last few weeks. It has resulted in onion shortage here in Ghana, though, if you did not know. That's one of the situations where we find ourselves. We don't have onions because up to 200 million cedis worth of onions are currently stuck at Niger's borders, but because of the coup. But even as we have those conversations, ECOWAS has been wanting them to return to constitutional rule. We know that they gave an order that by Sunday they should reinstate the President Bazoum and return the country to democratic rule. That didn't happen. What the military leaders have done is that they've appointed a prime minister now, and then they've appointed a cabinet, simply saying that we're not going anywhere. And so ahead of that, that's ahead of yesterday's ECOWAS meeting, that's what happened. Yesterday, the heads of state met, Akufo-Addo was there, and amongst many things, they sought to find out what could be the next line of action. There's been diplomatic missions sent. The emir of Kano was there, was able to meet the military junta, and so the diplomatic front is still being considered. But what was important to notice is that they say all other options are open, including military intervention and a direct order to ECOMOG, that's the Joint Association of Military Groups, to begin to come together and make preparations to head to Niger for a quick resolution or a return to constitutional rule. So whether or not that makes a lot of sense, security consultant, Colonel retired Festus Abuaji, has been speaking. He spoke to a media giant TV3. We're going to take a listen to exactly what he said as to the entire plan of ECOWAS, and then we'll return and wrap up on today's edition of the show.
I think the outcomes or the outcome of the meeting in Abuja is a bit mixed. To me, it's very clear that ECOWAS has changed or shifted its position slightly. It does no longer mention Bazoum. It rather emphasizes the restoration of democracy or governance, which is very, very different, significantly different from its emphasis or focus on the reinstatement or restoration of Bazoum at the last meeting. The ordering of the deployment of the ECOMOG standby force is also another interesting angle. Now, for those who don't know too much about this force, it's not a standing force. So there is no barracks or any headquarters in West Africa that we say headquarters, ECOWAS, standby, or standing force. It is rather the troops who are at home in their respective countries. When needed, they will be contributed to the ECOWAS cause. The only standing element of that ECOWAS standby force is the two elements. First of all, the planning element, which plans around the clock, but normally for peacekeeping. And then the office of the chief of staff of ECOWAS, who is a general or a colonel or whatever with some staff, few of them based in Abuja. So with this order, these officers, in all likelihood, augmented by other senior officers from the ECOWAS member states, are now going to plan into detail how they're going to launch this invasion of Niger. As of yet, we have not heard of a force commander. And one day we expect the ECOWAS president to tell us that an ECOWAS force commander has been appointed. He can only be appointed with the sanction of the authority. So we expect the authority meeting within another framework that we call the ECOWAS mediation and MSC, ECOWAS mediation and I've forgotten the word, but the abbreviation is MSC. There are 9 members. They're going to meet, and then the president will tell them who his recommendation is as to the force and so on and so forth. They'll be presented with the details of the military operation, and then they will give their blessing. I realize. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, considering the domestic pressures from ECOWAS countries, do you think member states will be ready to support and even finance any military intervention? Nigeria, for instance, they have about 223,000 troops, but haven't been able to control Boko Haram and insurgency in the region.
Good. Now, some of these figures that you hear in some international journals like Jay's Defense are far from the reality. So nobody really knows the sizes of forces that ECOWAS member states have. That's one. The ECOWAS standby force, all mobilized on paper, is 6,500. We don't have them on the ground. They are only in their countries of origin. So this planning is going to now reconfigure the structure of this force based on which of the countries confirm the pledges that they have made. So Ghana might have pledged 1 battalion, 2 battalions, but under this circumstance currently, Ghana will say, I'm sorry, I have other commitments, and I'm not able to meet that pledge. I can only give you so much or so many. It is when these member states, and there are only 11 of them who are left, because 4 of them are now part of the, let's call them the Sahel Alliance of Guinea, of Mali, of Burkina Faso, and now Niger, that we can be sure that the force has been properly configured. There's a military doctrine, it's very general, that any army that is launching an offensive operation against somebody who is defending must have a force ratio of 3-1. Now I checked some time back. The Niger Army is about 5,000, excluding a small air force. They have the gendarme, you have the police. I think they have some militia. So the army alone is 5,000. Let's say that the Nigerian armed forces, together with the police, all together are 7,500. So ECOWAS must be thinking of upward of 22,000. We don't have that. We only on paper have 6,500. So we need to wait and hear from the member states how many of which type of forces that member states are going to contribute.
Right then, and so details we'll continue rather to follow these developments and bring you up to the minute speed as and when it comes. But today is the final day of the BEC. We wish them all the best from the beginning, and so it is just right that we wish them all the best again, and we pray that success finds them. And that's how we end today's edition of Let's Talk Ghana here on Studios 2 Television. As always, a lot more content for you if you stay with us here on Studios 2 TV, on YouTube, as well as on Facebook. I am Eric Mawina Egbeta. Many thanks for watching.
Studios 2 TV. The truth is here in your eyes.